What if I told you that gentle tap you feel on your line isn't a bite? What if that little bump, the one you've been taught to react to with a lightning-fast hook set, is actually a question from the fish? And by jerking your rod, you're giving it the wrong answer every single time. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood moments in walleye fishing, the initial contact. I'm going to show you why the biggest, smartest walleye in the system tap your lure once and then vanish into the depths. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll understand a secret that most anglers go their entire lives without figuring out. This isn't just a tip, it's a fundamental shift in how you think about a bite. So let me ask you, have you ever felt that tap, set the hook on nothing, and then been met with complete and utter silence? Let me know in the comments, because I bet you're not alone. For decades, we've been told the same thing by our fathers, grandfathers, and every fishing show on television. Feel a tick, set the hook, it's ingrained in us. We think of walleye as these finicky, light biters, and any hesitation on our part means a lost opportunity. We tell ourselves stories to justify the failed hook set. Oh, that was just a small one. It must have just nipped the tail of my plastic. The fish just weren't committed today. But this thinking is exactly what keeps trophy fish safe. The truth is, this tap-then-nothing scenario is the calling card of a large, cautious, and dominant walleye. These old fish didn't get big by being reckless. They have a process, a system for investigating things in their world before they commit to eating them. And for years, we've been interrupting that process at the worst possible moment, effectively teaching these smart fish to avoid our lures entirely. It's time to unlearn the habit that's costing us our biggest fish. First, let's shatter the biggest myth right now. That initial tap is rarely an attempt by the walleye to eat your lure. Think about it. A big walleye can inhale a 6-inch baitfish in a fraction of a second, creating a vacuum with its gills that pulls the prey in. If it wanted to eat your jig, you would feel a heavy, undeniable weight, not a delicate little tick. That tap is not a failed feeding attempt. It is a calculated, deliberate act of investigation. Imagine you're walking through a dark room and you see a strange shape on the floor. You don't just grab it. You poke it with your foot first to see what it is, to see how it reacts. That is precisely what a big walleye is doing. It's using its snout, its nose, to nudge your lure. It's asking a question. What are you? Are you food? Are you a threat? Are you alive? Your response to that question determines whether you get a real bite or not. This is the crucial first step to understanding the entire interaction. To really get this, we need to think about walleye anatomy for a second. Look at the head of a walleye. It's a hard, bony tool. Their mouth is designed for grabbing and holding, but the front of their face, their snout, is perfect for pushing and bumping. This is a behavior seen in countless predator species, from your dog at home nudging a new toy to a shark bumping a potential prey item. It is a low-commitment, low-energy way to gather information. The walleye feels the texture of your lure, its hardness, and most importantly, it's waiting to see what the lure does in response to being touched. It's a physical test. If it pushes a real minnow or a leech, that creature will react. It will flinch, dart away, or try to escape. The walleye is expecting a similar natural reaction. So when you feel that tap, you aren't feeling teeth. You're feeling the hard snout of a curious fish making contact with your lure. It's a completely different event than a feeding strike, and it requires a completely different response from you, the angler. Now let's talk about why big fish and small fish behave so differently. A small 10-inch walleye is an eating machine. It's in a constant race to grow, competing with hundreds of its siblings for every scrap of food. They are aggressive, reckless, and often travel in packs. When they see a lure, their instinct is simple: eat it before something else does. That's why they often slam a lure, and you get that solid thump. But a 28-inch, 10-pound walleye is a different beast entirely. It's old, it's experienced, and it's the king of its domain. It has survived years of fishing pressure, nets, and other predators. It didn't get that big by making stupid mistakes. It is cautious and calculated. It doesn't need to rush. It will observe a potential meal from a distance, assess it, and only then, if everything seems right, will it commit. The tap is a key part of that assessment process. Smaller fish give you an exclamation point. The big ones give you a question mark. Let's dive deeper into what I call the push. This isn't just a random nudge, it's a specific, evolved behavior. This move serves two purposes for the walleye. The first is pure curiosity, as we've discussed, but the second can be a subtle form of territorial aggression. Your lure, jigging and flashing in its prime territory, is an intruder. The walleye might not be hungry at that exact moment, but it wants to know what this strange thing is doing in its living room. The push is a way of saying, "Hey, what are you?" It's a test of dominance. Think of two bucks sizing each other up. They start with a gentle push of antlers before a full-blown fight. The walleye is doing the same with your lure. It's asserting its presence and gauging the reaction. This is especially true for the biggest, most dominant fish in a given area. They are the guardians of the best spots, and they inspect everything that comes through. Understanding this territorial aspect is key because it means the fish is engaged, even if it isn't actively feeding. Try to see the world from the walleye's perspective for a moment. You're sitting near a rock pile in your favorite spot. The water is murky, and you rely on your lateral line and vision to sense your environment. Suddenly, this brightly colored, odd-smelling object drops down from the sky. It hops up and down, making strange vibrations. It looks a little like a dying bait fish, but something's off. It's not natural. Is it food? Is it a competitor? Is it dangerous? You're a survivor? You don't just swim over and swallow it. That's how you end up with a hook in your mouth. So you approach slowly, cautiously. You get close enough to inspect it, and then you give it a firm nudge with your nose. You want to see how it feels and how it reacts. This is the moment of truth. To that fish, your lure is an unknown entity, an alien intruder. The first contact is its only way to get the information it needs to make a decision. Attack, ignore, or flee. And your actions in the next 2 seconds will give it all the information it needs. There's another critical factor at play here, the conservation of energy. A massive walleye is a highly efficient predator. It has to be. Chasing down prey expends a huge amount of calories, and if the chase isn't successful, that's a net loss. Big old fish are masters of risk versus reward. A full-speed, mouth-gaping attack is a significant energy investment. They are not going to make that investment unless they are almost 100% certain that the target is a guaranteed meal. The initial tap, the push, is an incredibly low-energy way to vet a potential target. It costs the fish almost nothing in terms of calories, but provides a wealth of information. If the target reacts like real prey, then the fish knows it's worth investing the energy in a proper strike. If it reacts unnaturally or not at all, the fish simply turns away and waits for a better opportunity. It has lost nothing. It's the ultimate predator efficiency, and we have to learn how to play by its rules. So what exactly happens in the mind of the walleye right after it pushes your lure? This is the most important part of the entire sequence. The fish has just made contact. It now pauses, often just a few inches away, and it watches. It is waiting for a sign. Did the creature it just bumped flinch in pain? Is it trying to swim away, wounded and vulnerable? Does it look like an easy meal now? The walleye is on high alert, its predatory instincts fully engaged, waiting for the trigger that says attack. This is a tiny window of opportunity, maybe only a few seconds long. The fish is in a state of suspended judgment. It has moved from curiosity to intense focus. It has asked its question with the tap, and now it is silently waiting for your lure to provide the answer. Everything you do or don't do on your end of the line in this moment will be interpreted as that answer. And 99% of anglers give the fish an answer that makes it lose interest instantly. And that brings us to the angler's #1 mistake, the instant, violent hook set. You feel that tick, and your brain, conditioned by years of conventional wisdom, screams, "Set the hook." You reel down, and you rip that rod towards the sky with all your might. From your perspective, you're trying to land a fish. But from the walleye's perspective, something completely unnatural and terrifying just happened. The small, potentially wounded creature it was inspecting suddenly rockets away at an impossible speed, ripped 6 feet off the bottom and toward the surface. This is not the behavior of any known prey item in the walleye's world. It's the equivalent of you poking a snail and having it teleport across the room. The walleye's brain doesn't register this as fleeing prey. It registers it as danger or not food. You haven't just missed a fish, you have actively spooked it. You've confirmed its suspicion that your lure was a strange, unnatural trap. The game is over before it even began. Let's paint a clearer picture. Let's visualize this whole scene unfolding on the bottom of the lake. Your quarter-ounce jig with a plastic minnow is sitting perfectly still on a gravel patch. It's been there for 3 seconds. A huge, dark shape detaches from a nearby boulder and glides in. It's a 30-inch walleye. It hovers, its pectoral fins waving gently as it sizes up your lure. It moves in closer, lowers its head, and gives the jig a firm thump with its nose. On the surface, you feel that beautiful electric tap travel up your line. Your heart jumps. You do what you've always done. You drop the rod tip, reel up the slack, and you absolutely slam the hook home. Back on the bottom, the jig flies vertically off the floor. The massive walleye, which was paused and ready to inhale the lure on its next move, flinches violently and bolts in the other direction. It's gone. You reel in, check your bait, and say to your buddy, "Ah, just a tap. Must be a little one." You couldn't be more wrong. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, so a hard hook set is wrong. What if I do nothing at all? This is angler's mistake number 2, and it's almost as bad. So you feel the tap, and you decide to wait to see if the fish comes back and really eats it. You just hold your rod perfectly still. Down on the bottom, the walleye has just pushed your lure. It's waiting for a reaction. And your lure does absolutely nothing. It just sits there, completely inanimate. It doesn't flinch, it doesn't try to swim away. It just lays there like the piece of lead and plastic that it is. The walleye's conclusion is swift and simple. This thing isn't alive. A real creature, a minnow, a crawfish, a leech, would have reacted to being pushed by a giant predator. By doing nothing, you have confirmed to the fish that your lure is a fake, an inanimate object not worth eating. Its curiosity fades, and it slowly swims away in search of something that actually behaves like food. You've lost the fish again, just in a different way. So if a violent hook set is wrong, and doing nothing is also wrong, what is the right reaction? The answer lies in finding the perfect middle ground. The secret is to give the fish the reaction it expects from a living, vulnerable prey item. You need to convince the walleye that it has just injured your lure and that now is the perfect time to strike. You have to trigger its deep-seated predatory instinct. This isn't about power. It's about finesse. It's about psychology. You're not trying to drive a hook home on that first tap. You are trying to start a conversation. The fish asked a question with the tap. Your job is to answer in a way that makes it want to eat. This is the moment that separates the truly great anglers from the good ones. It's a subtle skill, a change in mindset from reacting to persuading, and the technique is surprisingly simple once you understand the principle behind it. The technique is what I call the tease. When you feel that first tap, you do not set the hook. Instead, you do one of 2 things. Option 1, you simply hold pressure and very slowly begin to drag the lure along the bottom, maybe just a few inches. Option 2, you give the rod tip the tiniest, almost imperceptible little pop or twitch, just enough to make the jig hop up an inch and settle back down. What does this look like from the fish's perspective? You've just nudged this thing, and now it's trying to weakly crawl or flutter away. It looks stunned. It looks wounded. It looks like the easiest meal this walleye has seen all day. You are mimicking a creature that has been hurt and is making a last feeble attempt to escape. This is the ultimate trigger for a predator. You are no longer presenting a fake lure. You are presenting the illusion of a dying meal. Why does the tease work so effectively? It taps directly into the core programming of a predator. Predators are wired to attack signs of weakness. A healthy school of baitfish can swim right past a big pike or walleye, and it might not react. But the moment one of those baitfish starts to flutter, falter, or lag behind the school, it's like a neon sign flashing, "Eat me." The predator instinct takes over. When you perform the slow drag, or the tiny hop after the initial tap, you are simulating that exact moment of weakness. The walleye, which was just in an investigative mode, now switches to a full-blown attack mode. Its brain says, "I was right. This thing is alive. I just hurt it, and now it's trying to get away. I must eat it now before it escapes or something else gets it." The next thing you feel will not be a tap. It will be an aggressive, heavy, committed takedown. The fish will load up your rod. That is when you set the hook. It's worth noting that this tap and investigate behavior is far more common when you're using artificial lures. Think about live bait for a second. When a walleye approaches a live minnow or a leech, it's getting a whole different set of signals. It's getting the scent of a real food source. When it gets close, it can feel the subtle vibrations of a living creature. And if it does tap a minnow, the minnow will react in a naturally panicked way, which is a huge trigger. This is why live bait can be so effective. It does the tease for you. Artificial lures, on the other hand, are visually appealing but often lack the other sensory cues. They are silent, they don't smell right, and they don't move on their own. The walleye is naturally more skeptical of them. Therefore, it relies more heavily on the physical push to test it. This is why mastering this technique is so critical for anglers who love throwing jigs, plastics, and crankbaits. You have to become the one who provides the lifelike reaction. Understanding this should fundamentally change your entire jigging cadence. Many anglers fish with a very aggressive, sharp, rip-and-fall retrieve. While that can certainly attract attention, it can also be intimidating to a large, neutral walleye. A better approach is to slow down. Use longer pauses. Instead of sharp rips, use slow, deliberate lifts of the rod tip. Let the jig maintain contact with the bottom more often. This gives a curious walleye more time to approach, inspect, and ultimately tap the lure. A fast, frantic presentation doesn't give a cautious fish the window it needs to perform its investigation. So, slow your roll. Be more deliberate. Think of your jig as something crawling along the bottom, not hopping erratically. This slower, more methodical approach will not only get you more taps from big fish, but it will also put you in a better position to execute the tease when that tap finally comes. We also need to redefine what a tap even feels like. It's not always a sharp thump-thump like you see in cartoons. Very often, especially with trophy-class fish, the signal is much more subtle. Sometimes, it's just a sudden feeling of weight, as if you've snagged a wet leaf. Your jig was falling, and it just stops a foot short of the bottom. That's a fish. Sometimes it's the opposite. You're dragging the jig, and suddenly your line goes completely slack. That's a fish that has picked up the lure and is swimming towards you. Other times, it's just a faint tick that you see in your line more than you feel in your rod. It's a tiny jump or twitch in the braid, right where it enters the water. Learning to recognize these subtle cues is just as important as knowing how to react. You have to become a student of your line. Pay attention to every little thing that feels different from the normal rhythm of your retrieve. Most of the time, that difference is a fish talking to you. This is why your equipment becomes so incredibly important. Trying to feel these subtle taps with an old fiberglass rod and stretchy monofilament line is like trying to read a newspaper from across the room. It's nearly impossible. To play this high-level game, you need the right tools. This means a high-modulus graphite rod with a fast or extra-fast action. You need that sensitivity to transmit every little bump from the lure to your hand. And even more importantly, you need to be using a no-stretch braided mainline with a fluorocarbon leader. Braid is like a direct telephone line to your jig. There is no stretch, so every single bit of information, every rock, every weed, and especially every tap from a fish is transmitted instantly. This combination of a sensitive rod and a no-stretch line is not a luxury. It's a necessity if you want to consistently detect and capitalize on the subtle language of big walleye. Let's be clear, this window of opportunity is incredibly brief. After the walleye taps your lure, you have maybe 2 or 3 seconds to make the right move. The fish's interest is at its absolute peak in that moment. It's focused, it's curious, and it's ready to be triggered into striking. If you wait too long, its short attention span will move on. A flicker of movement from another bait fish, a change in the current, any little thing can distract it, and your chance is gone forever. This is a game of seconds. You cannot be daydreaming or looking at the scenery. You must be 100% focused on your line and the feel of your lure. When that tap comes, your brain needs to override the old instinct to set the hook and immediately transition into the new correct sequence. It takes practice and discipline to build this new muscle memory, but the rewards are immense. So let's put this all together into a new step-by-step sequence. This is your new mantra for walleye fishing. Step 1. Feel the initial contact. Recognize it for what it is. A tap, a sudden weight, a slack line. It's a question. Step 2. Pause. Do nothing for 1 single second. Just one. This slight delay prevents the disastrous knee-jerk hook set. Step 3. Execute the tease. Either begin a slow, steady drag of the lure for 6 inches or give the rod tip one single, subtle pop. You are now answering the question. You're telling the fish you are a wounded, easy meal. Step 4. Prepare for the real bite. The fish is now triggered. The next thing you feel will be heavy, solid, and unmistakable. It will feel like you've hooked a log that starts to swim away. Step 5. Now you set the hook. A firm, sweeping hook set to drive the point home. This sequence turns a moment of uncertainty into a predictable and successful outcome. I remember the exact day this all clicked for me. I was fishing a deep rock reef, marking huge fish on my electronics, but I couldn't get a single one to commit. For an hour, it was the same story. Tap, tap, nothing. Tap, nothing. I was getting incredibly frustrated, blaming the weather, the barometric pressure, everything but myself. Then I remembered an old-timer telling me a story about leading the fish. I decided to try something different. The very next tap I felt, instead of setting the hook, I just dropped my rod tip slightly and then started a slow crawling drag. The line felt mushy for a second, and then it suddenly went completely tight and the rod doubled over. It was a 29-inch walleye, one of the biggest I'd caught that year. It had been tapping my lure the whole time, just waiting for me to give it the right response. That one fish completely changed the way I fish for walleye forever. It proved to me that the problem wasn't the fish, it was me. So, let's bring this all home. The single most important thing to take away from this is that the first tap is a conversation, not a conclusion. It's the fish asking, "Are you real?" And for years, most of us have been screaming no by ripping the lure away with an instant hook set. The real turning point, the aha moment, is realizing that your job isn't to react to that tap, but to respond to it. By changing your response from a violent jerk to a subtle tease, a slow drag, or a tiny hop, you change the entire narrative. You're no longer trying to trick the fish, you're speaking its language. You're playing into its predatory instincts and convincing it that your lure is the wounded, easy meal it's been waiting for. This isn't just a small tweak. This is a fundamental shift that can turn one of the most frustrating moments in fishing into your most successful one. It will absolutely put more and bigger fish in your boat. Thank you so much for watching. If this video just blew your mind or changed how you'll approach your next trip, do me a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's next. Now, I have a question for you all. What's the biggest unwritten rule of fishing you've had to unlearn to become a better angler? Drop your story in the comments below. I'm excited to read them.